The energy diamond is based on 30 energies or skills or competencies or areas of knowledge. These 30 areas are something that emerge from learning in different ways about different things. The three styles of learning that any person can typically engage with are: they can know things, they can take what they know and put it into practice, and after practice they can eventually innovate or build and develop on the things that they've been actually working on. Now, learning in that fashion, starting by experiencing and knowing things and then putting things into practicing and harnessing and managing those things, and ultimately finishing up by building and developing those things into new innovative ways of doing things, new novel ways of doing things, that's a very logical way of learning. So logical people tend to learn in that fashion. They'll start by gathering experience and knowledge and watching and observing things. Then they'll take that knowledge and organise it and practice it in order to know ultimately how to do things in innovative ways. Typically they'll start by doing these things for themselves, and you'll see this typically in the source matrix, which is the list of 30 competencies that are at the root of the whole energy diamond structure. So if you look at the source matrix, example of which is here, you'll see that a logical person will typically learn to know things, manage things and develop them things for themselves in an area, and then they may very well go on to do those things with other people. Generally they'll move from doing things for themselves to moving towards helping other people, and also they'll move towards things that are very grounded in the real world, to do with their values and their work and the physical world, and they'll tend to move towards more internal things, things that are inside of them as a person, as who they are as a human being, their emotions, their intellect and their creativity. They'll start by working on those sort of things for themselves and ultimately take them out to helping other people develop those areas of their lives. Intuitive people will tend to come in the other direction. They'll tend to work with their mind and what happens on the inside of their heads and their hearts, and they'll take that especially from other people and ultimately bring that back to themselves and ground it into their reality, into something solid, something that they can trust and something they can actually believe in. So the way that intuitives learn and the way that logical people learn are very, very different. You'll find that with intuitives, they tend to innovate first. They seem to just come up with the ideas, and their challenge is then to organise the ideas in such a way that they can come to experience them in the real world. They can come to know them in the real world. Whereas with logical people, it's the other way around. They spend a lot of time observing things, gathering experience and knowledge, putting those things into practice, and eventually being somebody who can innovate on what they've been practicing. So these contrasted styles of learning are the main differences and distinctions between people who follow logical paths and people who follow intuitive paths. We'll see this more clearly when we look at how the 30 competencies that people answer questions on in the original life scan are put together into the layout of a diamond shape that is symbolic of the whole energy diamond process. So we'll have a look at that in the next video. When the source matrix, the 30 competencies that are in the life scan questionnaire are arranged in a diamond shape, you'll find that this is how the final result comes out. What you'll notice is that at the bottom of the diamond are things to do with the individual, what things a person does for themselves, and you'll see that towards the top, the blue area corresponds to the activities and skills that relate to helping other people. Also, the things at the bottom of the diamond are things to do with the real world, things that empower an individual and that enable them to deal with the real world. And you'll see that as you move through the top of the diamond, the areas at the top are more to do with creativity, intellect, and emotions. So the bottom set of competencies are all to do with being grounded and being real, and to do with the individual. And the top set of competencies are all about helping other people and doing things in a creative way, in an imaginative way. And the area in the middle is an area to do with what bridges a person's activities that they do for themselves and what things they do to help other people. It's the area that bridges the real world with the world of imagination that the person actually engages with. And that's often something that a person will work through by meeting people, moving around in society, and doing other things through their social encounters. So what you'll find with logical people is they tend to start at the bottom and they will generally migrate towards the top. They start in the real world, they start with themselves, and they slowly move towards their imagination and slowly move towards taking what they learn from themselves out to other people. With intuitive people, you tend to find they will move downwards on the energy diamond. They may very well start at the top, be very focused on helping other people and learning through other people, working on their creativity and their imagination. And then as time goes by, their challenge will be to move down through the diamond, develop their social skills, and ultimately learn to master themselves and take their ideas and imagination and get them to filter down into the real world in a way which makes a real difference for them, in a way which they can actually experience and not just know in their heads. So on the diamond, this is typically how you see intuitive people and logical people move through their competencies. Logical people tend to move upwards and intuitive people tend to move downwards. So when you look at the intuitive paths or logical paths and you see the arrows which indicate which direction they're going, you'll see that logical paths tend to have their arrows generally pointing upwards, and intuitive paths tend to show their paths with the arrows generally pointing downwards. So let's just have a look at some examples of that so that you can see what it looks like in reality.